So, welcome to the line.
Hi, thank you.
So here we are with Evan Urban.
Yes, sir.
And who are we here with? Because you've talked to me and said like 6 different companies. So which company are we here on the line with?
So I'm with the leadership team on Bowen Limited.
Okay.
It's a family of companies centered around high-end luxury construction. I manage the vintage wood and forged iron division. So we take down old buildings, we reclaim the lumber, as you can kind of see around us right now.
Yeah.
We create like 1800s period pieces with forged iron, and then we supply them to our sister companies and other builders and contractors to create new beautiful structures.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, I mean, that is something that we try to do with some of our podcasts. It is mostly an on-location podcast. So, Evan, why don't you just, for those that might be watching, if you're listening, you're missing out. But for those of you who are watching, Evan, tell us where we are right now. What's surrounding us? And think about it from an audible standpoint as well, because there are people listening.
Yeah, we're in lumber yard 1 of 2. We have one here, and we have one about an hour away. We are in row 4 and 5 in between. So we have 2 long rows of lumber, different barns that we've taken down. We stack and assort them. You know, there's Albert's barn. We just took that down in September.
So Albert's barn's behind me.
Albert's barn is behind you. That big, beautiful whitewash beam you got behind you. That's one of the largest beams. That's a carrier beam right there. That's the thing that holds up the floor.
Wow.
So we got a lot of beautiful stuff out here, and then we have about 10 times this amount at our other location.
So just tell me here for what's around us, what kind of age are we talking about? What kind of years behind us here?
So if you see like the one right behind you, just to describe for the people that aren't able to see, you'll see hand-hewn marks. Those usually, you might get into the early 1900s, usually going to be 1800s, 1700s and before.
Wow.
Wow. But if you have those big circular sawn marks like the one that has Albert's tag on it, big curved marks, that's going to be right when they started creating, sawmills and started cutting the beams with those huge blades. They could be late 1800s, early 1900s.
Wow.
But almost any barn we take down is going to be at least 100 years old.
Wow. I personally, I just love sitting amongst all of this history.
Feels incredible.
I did hear that you guys just learned about how to stack it, so that makes me feel a little bit more comfortable sitting in between here. So I don't want to play pickup sticks.
Maybe a beam from the top would fall, and we document that a couple times. Then we got to get some training in here, make sure you guys know how to stack their beams.
So you're not doing really good at showing me comfort level. This is not a thing.
Now they're good.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, Evan, tell us a little bit, just about yourself. How did you end up here? And you're the general manager.
Yes.
Here?
Yep.
And there's a lot of. It's funny. I've had lunch with you and a bunch of your guys, and there's a lot of gray hair too. None of them are from the 1700s.
Yeah.
But I did see a lot of gray hair because there's a lot of handcrafting and work that goes on with your hands here at Forged Iron.
We have, I'll give you a little bit of my background, but just because you mentioned that, we have a 78-year-old guy, and I believe Jake's like 75, 74.
Who did we celebrate their birthday today?
That was Stevie. He's 78 years old, so happy birthday, Stevie.
Yeah.
Amish, so he's not going to see this, but he's one of the best. He's our best craftsman that we have. He said he's got plenty of years left, so we'll see.
He looked like it.
He's going to work till he can't.
He wasn't missing a beat.
Yeah, no. So in just a little bit of my background, or like my villain origin story. High school, I didn't pay attention a lot.
Chose the villain route. Okay.
Yeah.
He's the villain.
My wife would probably say that. So.
Okay.
Yeah. I try to be a hero, but I try to be humble. So I'll say I'm not always the good guy.
Yeah.
But so in high school, I didn't pay attention a lot. I didn't see the importance of it. I got by with B's and C's, and my parents said, "Hey, if you go to college, we'll pay for it," which is, I was extremely lucky in that regard.
Yeah.
So I decided, okay, I'll give it a shot. Applied to all the colleges I want to go to, and they kind of laughed me out of the room. I was like, not with these grades. And so I had to do 1 year locally at a community college at Hack.
Okay.
And then after a year, I, kind of made some effort and said, "Hey, okay, I can do this. Hey, Mom, I can do this. You can, pay the student loans at the nice university." And I ended up going to Lock Haven, transferred after a year. And it's odd sitting here now telling you that I have a degree, Bachelor's of Science in criminal justice and psychology.
Well, that totally makes sense.
Yeah,
with
right.
The wood that we have around
exactly.
here. I mean, Criminal justice, you know, some
yeah.
of these things might be a weapon from a
Yeah.
former time.
Definitely could be.
Yeah.
So and we find lots of bullets in them too sometimes. So whether it was shooting a tree or a shooting that happened in the barn, I don't know where it came from, but we find bullets for sure. So I went to school for that. I wanted to be in the FBI. That was my goal. You know, you watch TV and you see criminal profilers, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to help people. I just wanted to find a career in which I could make a difference in somebody's life. And about 2 years into school, I realized that there was a lot that you have to deal with in that regard that I don't think I'd be able to handle. Dead children being one of them.
Yeah, that would not be something.
I'm a dad. I've always wanted to be a dad, and I just don't know if I emotionally could handle that. And I was like, so maybe I should just be in business. Maybe I should just try to transfer and do something different. So I went and talked to my counselor, and she was like, you're too far in. If you want to do marketing or business, you got to go another year. And I was not trying to be in college for another year. So I just graduated. I went through, graduated on Friday, became a corrections officer. I started that following Monday. I did that for about 3 years. I also I got another job then, and I worked with children with autism and behavioral disabilities in school. So I used to work first shift in corrections. Then I moved to third shift, would work all night, and then I'd go into the schools in the morning and work with kids. I did that. I worked like 19-hour days. I did that for about a year. I was just about burnt out. Was able with my wife to buy a house.
So you worked a lot with people.
Yeah, with people. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that was part of my goal is I wanted to find a way that I could help people.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, especially being in the schools and just being in corrections. It was in juvenile corrections. So I'd work with anyone from, you know, as young as 12 up to like 20. And they'd come through the facility, and I'd do my best to work with them and, you know, treat them as if there's still somebody that cares about them and they're not just a number in the system. But I was getting burnt out, man. And so it happened that my mom, who's also in business, she and a business partner were looking to start a new business. And I had mentioned to her how burnt out I was. And she said, hey, if we start this business, I'll talk to my business partner, see if we have a role for you. So they ended up opening a vape shop, this is over 10 years ago. This is before it became what it was. There's these little batteries and you screw a thing on. And so I went and did that. Eventually, a couple years into that, I started my own business, manufacturing e-liquids out of a lab in Florida. I created 3 different brands. That was pretty successful. And then they announced that they were going to do different taxes. And with 2 owners, a GM and an assistant store manager, we didn't want to get into that. And there's no way it would have been.
So how do you go from, like, I'm thinking this breakdown of this story here. You go to school for criminal justice. You leave that, and you get into a vape business.
Yeah, I kind of left it in the dust a little bit.
And then e-liquids. So those are the areas that you're going. How do you end up being a general manager of a rather large, handcrafted timber company, forged iron? Like, I just want to reference this because this is really important. They actually have here at this company, and say the name again for me, just the whole name.
Bowen Unlimited.
Okay. And your division is vintage wood and forged iron.
Yes.
So the interesting part about forged iron, if you've been following Blackline at all and you've seen any of our posts, we have posted about endangered species in the trades industry, and one of those is blacksmith.
Yep.
And you have blacksmith on staff.
Yep.
Here.
We have a lead blacksmith and 2 apprentices. Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. So you go from e-liquids to now here. Tell me how you got here.
So after we decided to shut that business down because of the taxes. It wouldn't have been financially, we wouldn't have been able to operate with our system.
Right.
So I ended up doing some networking. I spent about 6 months off work, did a lot of networking, and ended up finding 2 business owners that had their own business and no one was running it and they needed help. So we sat down for a couple interviews and I went there to run that company. It was an outdoor living company. I worked there for about 5 years, and then I was just looking for another opportunity. And it just so happened that the office manager here ended up with my resume, and I got a phone call saying they wanted to interview. I didn't even know that my resume had gotten here, and sat down and had a lot of conversations about my background, not really being in production or manufacturing or in the skilled trades. And
so I have to stop you just for a second because this is the problem with honest conversations, and we talked before the show. So the way that she got your resume is rather interesting.
I have to tell that?
Yeah, well, I just want to I can tell it for you because I really like it. So his mom just happened to have his resume with her everywhere she went.
Yeah.
And when she met this lady, she had it there for you. That's,
my mom is she's a bit of my role model. She's in business.
Yeah.
And so when I decided I was looking for another opportunity, I sent her my resume and just said, hey Ma, can you look this over and make sure it looks good, you know? And I've been out for 5 years or so, and she
probably Xeroxed it, put it on Monster or whatever.
Right. I don't know what she did, but
Yeah.
she got it around, and she got it into Sandy here, her hands, and then she turned it into the CEO of Bowen, and decided that my background looked like something that they'd be interested in, just from what I did at the other company for 5 years, and worked in e-commerce. They were thinking about trying to set up e-commerce here.
Okay.
And then once I met with them, we talked a lot about culture building and just what my outlook is on leadership and leading a company, and it just felt like the right fit, and so they decided to take a shot on me.
So Bowen and your companies, you guys kind of all work together,
Correct,
for a common goal, which I love, because that's something that we all are supposed to do. And we're talking today about lifting the view of the skilled trades, and that's not something that I can do by myself. It's not something that you can do by yourself. We all have to do that together. We have to work for a common goal to succeed. And so tell us about overall, like I've heard some things like you guys build some pretty high-end homes, correct?
Yes, we do.
All over the country?
All over the country. You had mentioned Idaho earlier. That's one of our larger clients out in Idaho. So,
and just to be clear, if you're listening, we're in Pennsylvania.
Yes, Pennsylvania. So we travel. I've been out to that job site twice.
Wow.
So we have 5 companies. Our division is the reclaimed and the iron. We have a steel fabrication company, a millwork division, a timber framer, and then the main GC, the construction. So it's basically a family of construction companies. We all work together to make a job happen.
So, and would you say? I find it really interesting. I mean, you guys have a blacksmith on staff and 2 apprentices, and it's like a lot of what you do is the skilled, like craftsmen, tradesmen working with your hands. We talked about some of your guys. Stevie's birthday today. It's the late 70s.
Yeah.
And he does not look like he's missing a beat at all.
No.
So,
by the way, when you have a 78-year-old working for you and he still wants to come to work, it definitely makes you feel like you're doing something right.
I would say so.
I check in with him like weekly. Hey, how's next week look? He said he's got years. So
Well, and you were saying he builds like your faux beams,
box
and whatnot?
beams.
Box
He
beams?
does. He's our craftsman. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I saw some of those when we were inside there, and I think that's really fascinating when someone builds a beam like that. It's built in a way that you can't tell it was built.
Correct. It looks like a solid beam.
Looks like a solid beam, and that's pretty fascinating. So you do work for, and we won't get into names or anything, but some pretty famous and big name people. Like if people want a luxury home, people that I don't like hang with. I'm willing to if they need somebody for the fire.
Yeah.
But you guys are doing a lot of that.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to hang out with any of them myself. I've been to 1 or 2 of their houses without them being there, seeing the construction in progress as part of the leadership team. But we usually do homes that are in the multi-millions and above, high-end homes. Yeah.
Wow.
But here at Vintage Wood, we also service your regular homeowner coming in looking for a new mantelpiece or flooring or the wall or ceiling planking. So we do a little bit of everything here, but overall, the family of companies, when we come together for a project, it's usually something large.
I know that you're chomping at the bit to speak about culture, but just a little bit more. Give me a little bit of the background. We were talking beforehand about how you guys go about this, because a lot of this stuff comes from old barns and old places. So how does it end up here? What is the progression of how we get to where we are now? Or actually even not where we are now, but where it ends up in someone's multi-million-dollar home.
Yeah, we actually have a video coming out about that, which I'm really excited about.
Man, that's a shame. I know a really good company that does video
I know,
work.
yeah,
I'm
right?
just saying.
Yeah. Starts with a time lapse of a building coming down, and then we'll walk the product through our shop and see it going into the final project.
Wow.
So we get barn leads from all over the place. We get phone calls from local people, and then we get barn leads through our website. Multiple a day.
What's the farthest you guys have ever gone for a barn?
The farthest we've ever gone probably is Virginia, but we get phone calls from Washington State, Oregon,
Wow.
all over the place. Yeah.
Wow.
We haven't gone that far quite yet because we live in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. It's like the barn capital of the world. So we've got a little ways to go before we have to go out that far.
For sure.
Yeah. So then we have our teams that we use locally to go demo these barns and take them down in a way that's sustainable, and it makes sure that all of the lumber stays intact so that we can use it instead of just trashing it. Our ultimate goal eventually is to have our own demo crew in-house.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right now you guys don't do that, but you do everything else.
Yeah. So we bring everything in. It goes through our shop. I think there's a common misconception about reclaimed wood that, we tear a building down and then we just sell it for a high margin and make a bunch of money, which is not what we do at all. This stuff has to come down to even put it on a saw. It has to be denailed. So we have guys in our shop. We have a couple guys full time. What they do is they denail. So they take metal wands like at the airport and metal detect these things and use a big nail puller and pull these nails out.
So you're literally going over the wood with metal detectors.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this earlier, and I had to chuckle a little bit. You actually are advertising for, what was the title?
Nail puller.
Nail puller.
Nail puller.
Yeah.
We try not to get them to pull nails all the time.
I think that personally that's something that we should, the Blackline Institute's going to have a training video on nail pulling.
Yeah.
So it's not as easy as you think.
Yeah. It definitely is not. Yeah. And it can get monotonous, so we try to keep it fresh for the guys. So we move them around different stations, but some of the guys just really like to do it. They can pop earbuds in, listen to music or a podcast. And
there's some days where I think I would like to be a volunteer nail puller.
I've done it.
Earbuds and not have my phone.
That's one of the ways that I kind of earn my keep here is I spent a little bit in the shop when I started here denailing and working some of the different stations with the guys.
So before we reach the point in the podcast where I want to ask you a question. That's a funny statement. I've been asking you questions the entire time. But a specific question. What is a tool or a piece of gear that Evan cannot live without? Like if you, last man on earth, you have to have this tool.
This may sound like a bit of a novice answer, but probably either an impact or a framing nailer. I have a house that's all plaster walls, and I cannot stand trying to drill into it or nail into it without destroying the nail. So I just redid a room in my house and put in a bunch of reclaimed trim and just taking that nailer and so nice.
Yeah.
But I'd say here at work specifically, the nail puller. It's a specific tool. It has a sliding bar and chompers at the bottom. You bang it and you just grab onto the nail and you yank those things out. We would not be able to operate without those.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll have to see if we can grab a picture of that here later before we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that was one of the very first tools when I was a young man. I grew up in Lancaster County and working on a farm. I still remember a carpenter handed me a nail puller, and I had no idea what to do with it, except it can pinch your hands really easily. Yeah,
it'll bite you.
So, you need a coat or a coffee?
No,
or,
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay,
yeah.
just checking. Because we are outside in the snow trying to look like we're not cold. So
No, I'm warm. I'm good.
Yeah. So, let's shift a little bit here and talk a little bit about your role. And so you came here to this organization, and you walked in, and there's all these tradesmen. And based on what I heard earlier today, and forgive me for those who are listening, remember we don't edit anything, so I'll just say it sounded like you walked into the Wild West.
Oh yeah.
And you had been a GM in other organizations. You do have a degree in criminal justice, and you worked in prisons. Maybe that helped here. I don't know. But let's talk a little bit about how you had to earn your way, because I think that's something for us to really reference for, those of us in the trades and working in the trades. You always have to earn your way because you're working alongside people that have been doing something for a very long time, and there isn't always a school to teach you how to do what they do.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's something to be said for coming in here and trying to earn respect and not just expect it to be given. And there's obviously you always want to have respect, but and they were respectful to me, but not necessarily in agreement with every single idea I brought in my first few weeks. When you have a 78-year-old guy who's been doing this his entire life, who's been working with his hands forever, and then has, I was like 32 coming in here out of college, and all right, how can you tell me what to do? So I had to just come in here and prove myself that these guys that we can follow each other, that we can learn from each other. So my first few weeks I spent it working out in the shop. just learning everything. I can't run a business if I don't understand how it operates.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a really good statement. Like the importance, in the businesses that I've operated in, I laid my hands on everything.
Yeah, exactly.
I did that with Blackline built, and they took the camera back away from me. So not everything can I do, but I tried.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important for those of us who maybe aren't in the field anymore, or maybe we never were in the field, but just the importance of being willing to do that work. Sometimes just when you're willing, it shows your team and the people around you that you really care about them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if I'm out in the shop and I do daily walkthroughs and just see how things go and talk to people, check in, and if I see something that's not being done properly, how am I going to know that unless I've done it myself?
Yeah.
And so I can't tell anybody what to do or how to do something if I haven't done it myself already.
Right.
So I think that's important to lead by example in that way.
I think that's one of the big things that that I had to learn. I remember when our design company, we started working and adopting new technologies, and I knew how to do design with the old technology, but I never learned the new technology.
Yeah.
And I was working with a designer, and he was working in Revit, and I was like, well, just move that there. And I just thought it was so simple and so easy.
I did a lot of that. Yeah.
But there was many more steps, and I could tell by his face that it wasn't just move that there.
Yeah. Well, why can't you just do it this way?
Exactly.
Like, are you an idiot? No,
Yeah.
you can't do it that way.
Yeah. They were nicer to you than they
Yeah.
were to me.
Yeah.
They were like, you are an idiot, boss.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So you came on board in the way that you talk about earning their respect, and I think that's something that I just want to take a minute and talk about, because now this is my personal belief and my feeling, but it's my podcast, so we're going to talk about this. I personally believe that respect is not something that is freely given.
Yeah. Yeah.
I believe that respect is earned. I believe that if you're a human being, that you deserve honor, and we should honor everybody that we come in contact with.
Correct.
I don't always respect certain people in certain roles, but I will honor their position. I will honor who they are as a person. But respect is something that I think that you have to earn, and in that regard, I'm cautious in who I give respect to.
And that's exactly what I meant when I came in here. They were respectful, but it doesn't mean they respected me in my position.
There it is.
And that's exactly what I wanted to.
And they weren't wrong to look at it that way.
Absolutely not. I mean, I probably in their shoes would have done the exact same thing. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that can relate to having a new boss, especially somebody coming from the outside. We do a lot of promotion internally here. I wasn't that guy. I was the guy that came in from somewhere else. They didn't know who I was or what my background was.
Well, the deck was stacked against you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now I think, I'd say maybe 6 months in, I think I finally won them over. But when their jobs had been done a certain way for a long time and we didn't have processes or procedures here, like no SOP was not a word that anybody's ever heard before. And, we come in, I say, well, we have to track inventory. When we have an inventory delivery, we have to know what it is. We have to tag our beams. We have to do this.
You probably have some serious challenges with inventory. These beams are
it's
not identical.
No, you can't just order. Like when we take orders, people are like, well, I want 12 by 12 by 30. And it's like, they don't make a lot of those. We have to go find it. 12 by 12s, they might have one or two per barn. Then it has to be oak, but it might be chestnut or pine. And, it's very difficult, the sourcing aspect of it, to make sure we have everything that the client needs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So speaking to culture, as you came in and you were earning their respect, took you about 6 months. What were the 3 most important things that you did that you felt like earned their respect? So if someone is coming into an organization and they haven't done everything that's out there, they haven't, and maybe that's one of the things, but I don't know. But what are 3 things that you did to earn your team's respect that they could actually trust you?
Well, it's not all about money, but I gave a lot of raises out. I wanted to make sure we were close to or above industry standard.
Yeah.
I think these guys were maybe a little. There wasn't a GM here, so there was no one necessarily overlooking full time what these guys were doing.
Well, and that's not malicious to what they were making. The fact of the matter is, if there's not a GM, then you don't know it.
Correct.
I remember I had a boss, and when I was a young apprentice, I hadn't gotten a raise for 2 years. And I walked into his office and I said, I haven't gotten a raise for 2 years. And I was kind of pissed. And I looked at him and he goes, I'm so sorry. He goes, I actually don't even know what you make. And I didn't realize that you didn't get a raise. And just to talk a little bit about my arrogance, I looked at him and I'm like, you don't know what I make? You're the boss.
Yeah.
Because he had nothing else to do other than watch my paycheck and what I made.
So it wasn't about that nobody thought they were deserving. It was that nobody realized. I don't think anyone realized. So that was like, oh, I like this guy. Let's see what he's maybe onto something here. And then just make sure that that they're taken care of. So our facility here is we're starting to slightly outgrow it. We want to build a new facility in a few years. But just in increasing their amenities and just making the workplace better, organizing, cleaning out, getting them better equipment, buying them new tools, giving them what they need.
Yeah, who was the guy we were talking to at lunch?
Rob, yeah.
Rob, and he was just saying, he shared with you an idea about a specific type of chainsaw that they were using to cut things.
Yeah.
And the next day he showed up and there it was in a new box.
Yeah.
He said the only thing you didn't do was put a bow on it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sorry, Rob.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
a failure on your part.
Yeah, I know,
just so you know.
Yeah. That's my philosophy, is to make sure that no one wants to take time away from their family to come to work every day and struggle. Who wants to struggle at work?
Say that again. No one wants to take time away from their family, come to work every day, and struggle.
Yeah.
No one.
Nobody.
Me included.
Myself.
I don't want to do that.
So when these guys are coming, I come in and they're telling me, hey, I struggle with this, or that saw keeps breaking down, or we're having issues, or this has to get rewired again, or that fuse keeps blowing.
Yeah.
Make those minor changes. It's not a big deal to buy, a $300 saw if it's going to crazy increase efficiency and make the guy that's using it happier and more efficient on a daily basis. It just makes sense. So just being there to meet their needs, basically, and letting them know that I have an open door policy. If you need something, come talk to me. It doesn't mean you're going to get it every single time, but I know it. I'll write it down. I'll remember it. And when that time comes that I think it's appropriate, we can make changes. But most of the changes that they wanted to see immediately were impactful, and we made those changes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So
I think I have two there.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm trying to stay with it. I think we got two.
Yeah.
First being, coming in and making sure that, wages are where they should be.
Correct.
And people are being supported.
Yep.
And then two, supplying the tools that they need, the things that they need, so that they don't have to struggle. So that's two.
And then I would say in my first 6 months here, we doubled the staff. So not only did we make sure they were being paid appropriately, but make sure they weren't doing the job of 2 or 3 people.
So that's your third thing, doubling the staff.
I would
so
say
there's
making sure they have
there's like
appropriate help.
70% of all COs that might listen to this, and they've just stopped.
Yeah.
So talk about that.
So we had, I'd want to say we had maybe 6 or 7 people here total at the time. We have 17 now.
Wow.
And that's a little over a year and a half in. And I'd say we're at a pretty good spot. That also includes a second location opening up. We have 2 people there. So I'd say there's 15 here.
Okay.
So it just about doubled at this location.
Okay.
We had maybe 3 guys in the shop, 1 guy out in the yard. With the amount of work that we were getting, these guys were burning it at both ends. So making sure that, they put in 50-hour weeks. So they're no slouches. And we were just
currently you're putting in 50-hour weeks.
They're putting 50-hour weeks. Yeah, over
Wow.
all hourly employees. They love the overtime. There's not many complaints about it. And I wanted to shorten the schedule up a little bit because they were coming in at 5:30. We talked about them coming in at 6 a.m. They're like, no, I'm not giving up that OT, baby. So here's our forklift. Can you hear that loud?
I couldn't tell if it was a forklift or a plane.
Yeah,
so.
it did sound like a plane.
Yeah.
He's going down that way. Okay. Sorry, I lost my track.
That's
there.
okay. We're risking life and limb to bring you the line.
Yeah. He's not working on this stack, right?
So when I see fear in your eyes, that makes me a little concerned. Just want to be clear.
I'm sure he knows what he's doing. He's not going to be working on this stack. Now Irvin's listening over there.
Oh, my.
Yeah. We brought in guys to make sure that I noticed our schedule kept getting red. I created a new schedule. I put it up on the wall on a TV. And if we weren't meeting our expected completion dates, I would turn it red. Our foreman very quickly learned that red was not a good color. He didn't like to see it. Because I'd be on him and say, hey, what can we do to make this red stop showing up on the schedule? We need to meet our clients' needs. We don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but you know, do the opposite. so then we decided, well, I think we need a few more people.
Yeah.
We bring a few more people, we're going to be able to take care of our workload, and it was a pretty simple process from there. It's not like we're not crashing overhead or anything. It's
So
just,
let's talk about that as an organization, because you talked about the three things that you did to earn their respect.
Yeah.
But you also, you're not the owner, so
Yeah.
you need the respect of the owner who's looking at the bottom line.
Correct.
And you've talked about coming in and giving raises.
Yeah.
You've talked about coming in and supplying them with what they need, which I do think is important, but let's not hide the fact that it costs money.
Yeah.
And three, you talked about doubling the staff. So how do you do that and still make money?
So it's not right for every company, right?
Yeah.
I think in the circumstance that we were in at the time, with the amount of work we had coming in, it just made sense to be able to expand our schedule, to get more work to come in. We increased our earnings that way. We were able to take more work and make more money.
And would you say that your teams,
we were understaffed?
you were understaffed, and so it's like by bringing on those additional people, you were actually able to do not just more work, but be more efficient overall?
Better work. Yeah,
Better work.
more efficient work. For example, we had a little brush machine. So we run our wood through this wire brush machine, and it creates textures in the wood. It looks really nice, and it cleans off paint and those things.
Yeah.
We got rid of that, spent $30,000 on a larger one that we can run more material through, that makes it way less laborsome for our guys running the machine. We brush way more material now. It pays for itself so quickly.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think for me, that was the one thing that in business, it took me a lot of mistakes and money spent the wrong way to learn some of these things. I think it was like 6 months. We rented an excavator as our company grew, and I realized that I had actually paid for it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I don't like
I
the,
didn't
I don't
own
like the
it.
rent word.
I
Yeah.
didn't own it. I rented it, and I was like,
Yeah.
and I was looking at the numbers one day, and I was just sick.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, well, we're just gonna buy one, and it was ridiculous
Yeah.
how that changed it. And then having that, and I think it's important to know where you are in business. That
100%.
if you're growing, that's one thing. If you're not growing and you're trying to keep the lights on,
Yeah.
well, then you need to look at things and don't be going out and buying a couple $100,000 in equipment. But
Smart investments.
yeah, but if you're struggling with how to do the work and you have plenty of work, then innovations and things like what you're talking about, you have to go after, or you're going to lose the work, you're going to lose the opportunity, and you're going to lose the people.
Yeah.
So
We weren't doing our own delivery, so we bought a delivery truck. Trying to open up new revenue streams to make
Yeah.
sure that we have everything we need to keep the guys happy, and making sure that they're empowered to do their job, which is one of our core values. We have seeds. We call them the seeds. The seeds we grow to grow our company's foundation.
I like that.
Servant leadership, empowerment, excellence is in the details. Do what's right, and stewardship. Treat it like your own. All these changes I made here at the company were all 100% buy-in from ownership. They treat us like we're owners of the company. We make decisions. They're happy with it. They trust us, which is it's a really powerful thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and then you pass that down when they see me making decisions, the employees see me making decisions that we know is in the best interest of the company and being financially responsible. When maybe we're not going to spend here, but I know this is going to be an efficient purchase. We're gonna do this. These guys it bleeds down. Like these
Yeah.
guys start to treat things like they own it. And I mean, I had a guy come to me as small as our guy Christopher here, little chalk holders, because we use chalk on the wood. He said
Yeah.
they were throwing chalk away when it was like this big because they couldn't get their fingers on it. So they bought a chalk holder, and now they can use chalk like the entire piece.
Wow.
And it's like the little bit of efficiencies that I wouldn't even thought of. Like that's what these guys, laborers out in the shop, are thinking about to save the company money when we're investing money into them. We're empowering them.
You're empowering them, you're investing into them, and then that breeds collaboration.
Absolutely.
Meaning they're coming to you with that knowledge. They're coming to you with those ideas because, like when we started and we talked about, not any one person can lift the view of the trades,
Yep.
but together for a common goal, we can do that. When you do those three things that you talked about that earn the respect of the men and women that you work with, then you get one of my favorite things, which is called buy-in, where they feel like owners. They feel like this isn't your company, this isn't the owner's company, this is their company.
Yeah, it's our company.
There it is.
And they do a really good job as being stewards of the company. And I think it's empowering for everybody to kind of feel like, well, I come to work every day and I'm maybe running a saw, but I have a say. I can give my opinion, and the GM or the owner, whoever it is at least going to listen. I know I'm being heard, and that's a powerful thing.
So steward is a very Lancaster County term. I hear it a lot around here. But
Is it?
For someone that is listening, and I hope people listen all over the country, but for someone that is listening that might not understand or be familiar with that, when you say being a steward of the company, what does that mean?
So that's one of the ones that's most important to me. It basically,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it basically means treat it like you own it.
Treat it like you own it.
Carry it as if it's representing you and your loved ones and your family. So like if you're out there representing our brand or our logo, represent it in a good way. Make decisions that are best for the company, because when the company does well, we all do well. And when you let them feel that, it's easy to say those words. When the company does well, you do well. Well, you actually have to help them do well.
Yeah.
You have to empower them and show them, whether it's making sure that they're getting a yearly bump or getting the tools that they need, that when they make better decisions or they make good decisions for efficiency, that it goes back into the company and that they're rewarded for.
Yeah. And that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think if we do that, we sat together and we all had lunch together at that giant table.
It was
that
delicious.
You guys
Thank
made.
you. Yeah.
And your team was there, and I asked some pretty hard questions. I don't know if you were prepared for it.
No, yeah,
and then I told you to be quiet and let them answer. But they literally said the things that you're saying now.
Yeah.
Where you came on board and they didn't use these words, but he had to earn their respect. But then he did earn their respect. And what they have, and I think this is really important for leadership. And I don't like to say management, because I believe that we're supposed to lead people. And
servant leaders. Yeah.
Absolutely. One of my, just to throw it out there, a great book that I have read is called Servant Leadership. It's an older book, and one of my favorite lines in that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what we're talking about, but I just want to share this because it's funny and true. But in the book, they talk about seagull leadership. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I've had bosses like that.
Seagull leadership is when you fly in and you eat someone's lunch, and then you shit all over what they're doing.
Yep. And then they leave.
And then they leave.
Yep.
That's seagull leadership. That's what we don't want.
Yeah.
When you're leading, you want to do what Evan is talking about here, where you earn the respect of your team. You bring them up to a livable place, that shows that you're putting your money where your mouth is.
Correct.
You supply them with what they need, and then, you move on. And what was the third thing that you did? You brought on more people to help them operate in a more reasonable way. Like nobody wants to come to work and struggle. Nobody wants to come to work and struggle. And if you're in leadership, that is your job. That is your mission, to help people be able to do their job effectively and not come to struggle.
In the trades, in the skilled trade industry, I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but I've read that there's like 2.5 times the turnover of any other industry. People come and go all the time, and I was told that when we started here. I struggle right now to think of a single person that's quit since I've been here.
Yeah.
And it's important that when you empower people and you make them feel like they are a part of a team and that you're a team member with them. You're not the guy sitting up there on the chair and saying, hey, do this, do that. And you're a part of the team and you're there working with them. And everything is cohesive. I think why wouldn't you want to work there? That's what I want to do. I want to create an environment where these guys are like, no, why would I leave? I mean, that place is great.
Yeah.
And it's always a work in progress, but that's ultimately the goal.
Well, in business, that's one of the things that I think a lot of businesses don't understand is the cost of turnover.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
retraining, man.
It's far more expensive than you think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, in construction in particular, one of the reasons for that is we're a boom or bust industry.
Yeah.
Like back in 2008, a whole bunch of jobs just disappeared. And so then you got to go learn something else. And then when it's back to boom, people don't come back. But we're in a different world now. It's like it is so different now than it was in 2008 as far as the amount of experienced tradespeople that are out there to do the things that need to be done. It's not what it used to be, and it's getting worse every day.
Yeah.
So what are you guys doing to help combat that? Like you talked a little bit about it, but I want to kind of push into it here. And you have a blacksmith, and he has 2 apprentices.
Yeah.
So, talk to me about that here at Forged Iron. I keep saying it wrong.
Vintage
wood and forged
Yeah, yeah.
iron. Vintage wood and forged
It's a very,
iron.
very generic name. It's what we do. Vintage wood and forged iron.
Okay.
Boom. So your question is how do we maintain a how do we keep people wanting to be in the trades?
Well, my question is how are you building that knowledge into the next generation? And if
Yeah.
you're not,
Right.
then sorry I asked on a public
No,
forum.
great
But-
question.
But if you are, or if you're not, we'll talk about that too. You just won't like it as much.
You met Jake and Irvin, right?
Yeah.
Yard manager, yard assistant.
Yeah.
Irvin doesn't like that title, yard assistant.
The one that I made fun of him for in front of everybody?
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Sorry,
it's-
Irvin.
And what that role is he's not just an assistant. He's learning from Jacob.
Yeah.
Jacob is maybe 74, something like that.
Yeah.
He's been doing this for a really long time. He knows the ins and outs. He knows these stacks. He knows what species is up there. He knows every layer. It's all in his brain. He's got to download that information to somebody else.
Come on. Yeah.
And Irvin is that guy that we've chosen to kind of shadow and assist Jacob in his role right now. And over the next couple years, hopefully, Irvin can start getting his knowledge up to where Jacob is, so that eventually it's our philosophy is that Irvin can take over that role when Jacob decides not to work anymore.
So let's talk about that just for a second to kind of give Irvin some kudos, so to speak.
He was just had the headphones on. So
Yeah.
he's not hearing it now, but
Well, that's okay.
yeah,
But because I expect him to listen.
yeah, he said he will. So.
But you don't pick somebody to invest in like that unless they have some pretty good character traits
Yeah,
for you to do that with, because you are deciding, and we don't like the word assistant, we don't like the word apprentice, and we just need to get over that, because the fact of it is that we need to be able to take the time to learn, and it takes time. You don't learn all these different species of wood in a week.
There's what you said about we don't like the word apprentice or assistant, and there's a part of that, like looking over the fence and be like, that guy's not an apprentice, that guy's not an assistant.
Yeah.
He's got it better than me.
Yeah.
And it's really easy for a guy like him here to look and be like, I'm just an assistant, and not realize that, hey, this is where we're going. This is the direction. The direction is you're going to be managing an entire yard for a business.
But an assistant at Vintage Wood and Forged Iron is different than an assistant at
Correct,
Burger
yeah.
King.
Yeah.
It's not like you're an assistant manager at Burger King. And listen, if that's what you love, make those burgers hot and ready.
Yeah.
Seriously. But that's the important part, I think, for people to realize. You need to know the organization that you're in. You need to know where it is that you work and what their titles mean, because it's not about what the rest of society says a title is. It's about what does the title actually mean where you are.
Or your outlook on what it is. Have you heard of the story of the 3 bricklayers?
You did say you wanted to tell this, so
I'd love to tell it.
Yeah.
I tell it every quarter. It's very simple. I might get the date wrong as I sit here. Maybe it was 1666 or 1888. St. Paul's Cathedral burnt down, and Christopher Wren was the architect in charge of rebuilding the cathedral. And one day he was on site visiting, and he saw 3 bricklayers, and they were laying bricks. And he walked up to the first one and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he said, "I'm working, man. Like, leave me alone. I'm working." He didn't know who the guy was.
I've worked with that guy.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So you walk away, and that was his perspective. And you walk to the next guy, and he's like, "I'm building a wall." Okay. He walks to the next guy and goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm rebuilding a cathedral to the Almighty."
Yeah.
Each guy was doing the exact same thing, and they all had a very different outlook on what they were doing.
Come on, Evan, bring it.
So Irvin or whoever's here, whether they're pulling nails all day, in each of my quarterly meetings, I go over the 3 bricklayers, and then I show them what their work is. We might have a billionaire client, and all of this material is going into his home. He's helping build the structure and home of this guy's dreams. Irvin's out here as the yard assistant and helping choose the exact material that's going into a billionaire's house. That's huge. I would be bragging to all my friends about that. Yeah, I'm the yard assistant.
Yeah.
So it's all about outlook and perspective.
Yeah. I think that's something that we really miss. And I wish that I would have had some of these conversations when I was younger.
Yeah.
To know that, because I also think that the way that you look at things, I'm gonna totally butcher this quote, but Marcus Aurelius says that the way your thoughts are in your mind is the way that your life will end up being.
Yeah.
Meaning the way that you think about things is the way that it's going to be. And so if you're thinking negatively about everything, then guess what? You're going to have a pretty crappy life. I corrected that because I didn't want to say shit because
Yeah.
someone got on me about that. But I would
Well, there it
say
is.
I would say it authentically. You're gonna have a pretty shitty life. But if you control your thoughts and the things that that you have in your mind, then you're going to be able to change. It's like sometimes we think of, just the other day I was dealing with something on the job, and the situation that happened was a negative situation, and this might not happen to you, but this happens to me. But like I get into this rhythm of wanting to play it back and forth in my mind, and it actually feels good to play the negative thing over and over and over again and just let it play. And a guy commented to me and he said, "Well, let's just move on and not continue to dwell on that, because I don't want that to direct the way the rest of our day is going to be."
Yeah.
And it's like, that's really what we need to be about, is taking control of the things that come into our mind and processing them in a way and turning them into what they need to be for us to continue to move forward.
It's easier said than done a lot of times, but it's important to try.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I say this a lot, but don't quit is one of my favorite phrases. And for me, years ago, that was a situation in my life, and faith plays a big part in my life. And for me, I remember where I was, what I was doing. I was in this bookstore of old books, and I opened up this Bible to the book of Joshua that was on the shelf, and the Bible attracted me just because it was the type of, I love old things. Like, I love being right here.
I got to show you a Bible we have inside there.
Oh, I would love to see it.
1888, I think.
And so I saw it, and it was clearly old, and I opened it up, and right there in the book of Joshua, someone had stuck this piece of paper in, and it was a poem that said, "Don't quit." And I think that is, when we're trying to take on our thoughts and we're trying to deal with the things in the world and all that stuff, and I won't recite the whole poem to you, but the point is that we should not give up. We should not quit. Because if we're going to quit, then we might as well dig a hole right now and be done. We need to continue to press on and strive for tomorrow and strive for something better. And I personally believe that faith plays a part in that, but you don't have to have that to have that mindset, and if we go after that, we really can affect change not only in our lives, but the lives of those around us.
Yeah.
So
my perspective is, the reason I do what I do is because I have two little boys at home and a wife, Roran and Malcolm. They're 4 and 3.
Wait, you got to say their names again. What?
Roran.
Yeah,
it's a different name, right?
I love that.
Yeah, you ever read the books Aragon? The Aragon books. There was a movie. It was a bad movie.
So I know the books because my son reads stuff like that.
Yeah.
I didn't, but
so
he does.
In the book, there's a dragon rider. He rides a dragon, and then his cousin Aragon is also his cousin Roran is also a hero, but he has no special powers. He can't ride a dragon. He's just a hero because he has the will to be one. And so
I love it.
We chose that name, and Malcolm. He's 3.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Roran and Malcolm, and they're the reason why I do everything I do and try to continually to improve and just be better, because my ultimate goal in life is to, one day, maybe a little bit, I want to be like my dad.
Yeah.
And that would just be that's fulfilling.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the fact of it is that we need to invest in the now for the future.
Yeah.
We need to invest in what we're doing today, and we might not see it. Legacy is one of my favorite words, and a legacy is not what you leave. A legacy is what you impress upon others and how you affect them and what they go out and do with what you've given them. That's the legacy that you want to leave. And so whether that's what you leave for your sons or the people that you work with, that's what we want to go after. We want to go after affecting people to leave legacy that changes the world that we live in and lifts the view of the skilled trades. That's really what we want to be about.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you another question here. We've reached that point where, so you can pass, but the world will judge you.
Is this the mistake question?
This is the mistake question. So I would like to hear from you a mistake that you have made that you've learned from, and a motivation and encouragement to those who might be listening.
That's a tough one to figure out a specific mistake that I can think of that I've made, because I make a lot of mistakes. and
Good answer.
I'm
Way
I'm,
to stall.
and I'm accountable for those. And
There
you
it
know,
is.
when I make a mistake, I let my team know that I made a mistake
Yeah.
and that I'm being accountable, because my expectations is they're accountable for their mistakes as well. And I know one I can think of is I actually at a previous job when I was a little newer into the business world, and it was an inventory-based business, and I thought I had a hit on my hands. We were going to order a ton of this inventory, put it on the shelf. It was going to make us a ton of money. I think we sold 2, and they sat there for a very long time. Had to get put 50% off. Still couldn't sell them.
Wow.
You know, that hurt. Especially, it's taken up valuable shelf space.
Yeah.
You know, that has a dollar value to sit there. You know, as I had my team out there trying to sell these things, you know, I have to take responsibility for that. And hey, I made a bad choice. I made a bad decision. You know, how are we going to get around it? How are we going to fix it? How are we going to try to get an ROI on what we have now? But as far as where I'm at today, I make little mistakes all the time.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Even just as small as, you know, the Sandy runs our QuickBooks, and I asked her to input things in a certain way that I wanted to see so I could pull reports on tracking. And a year in, I was like, nah, she was right. She told me, well, I don't think we should do it that way. I think we should do, instead of, you know, per beam, we should do board footage. I wanted all the beams to be individual because I didn't quite understand it at first, and I wanted to see how many beams we sold in a year. She was absolutely right.
So what did you learn from that situation?
I learned that especially being new into an industry, and as you learn that no matter what you think you know, we don't know everything.
Yeah.
And we are going to continue to learn. At 78, Stevie just told you he's still learning.
Yeah.
He was a farmer in a past life, and he said, I'm still learning how to be a farmer.
Yeah.
You know, you said the same thing. You're still learning how to clean up your mess after being an electrician, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just a little electrician joke.
Yeah, I got it. I was
Yeah.
ignoring it. Stupid electrician jokes.
We have quite a few of those in the family, so
Yeah.
I hear them quite a bit.
I still haven't been able to find a broom. I've been looking.
Yeah. So yeah, we just, I said, she actually cracked a smile when I told her, hey, can we track it in board footage now? And I knew exactly what she was thinking when she smiled, because she was like, I told you a year ago we should be tracking it that way. And I just confronted it right then and there. I remember you said that last year. It was a good idea. That was my mistake. If I need to help you do the work to change the method, just let me know and I'll do my part.
Come on, Evan.
But
like
you know,
that right there, that is the stuff that as leaders and managers that we need to be doing. When we make mistakes, when we do things wrong, the way that you get buy-in from your team, the way you get people to care and believe and to trust you is to be open about when you make a mistake and to own it, to own that mistake. And I was really wondering where you were going to go with that, and I'm really glad, because now I can talk about it in a positive way and to be like, well, let me tell you how you did that wrong.
Yeah.
It's like we have to own those things so that people actually see that we get it.
Yeah.
And that we're not so full of ourselves that we're always right.
and we're human.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all human.
Absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing that sometimes that we forget. And it usually is based out of fear that we don't want people to know that we made a mistake. We don't want them to know that we missed it because we're worried about how that's going to look. And it is always bigger in our minds than it is in reality.
They have to look to us to lead, right?
Absolutely.
They're looking to us to lead. If we make a mistake, how are they going to trust us to continue to lead?
Yeah.
Well, by being accountable. It's so important.
Yeah.
Accountability is huge.
So what's your motivation? What is your, and in my mistakes and motivation part of this, what is it, the encouragement that you want to say to motivate people to go after it?
There's something to be said about, you hear it all the time, like if you love what you do, it's not work. It's still work. If you're leaving your family and you have to go to work, but there is something to be said that if you have and I've also heard people, they don't like the term work family. These guys here are like friends to me. We can come and we can shoot the shit and, we can have a good time while we're working. I can go in the break room with the guys at lunchtime and just talk and have casual conversations. And, if you can build a culture of people that can get along and respect each other, we have so many more things in common than we do different, especially in today's divisive political structure and culture. We have more things alike. We have so many different cultures here. I mean, you saw that. I
did see that.
We have Christian, Amish, Muslim. They're all here, and we all get along and have a great time together. And I think that it motivates me to bring people together and to create that kind of culture in a small community, because when you're taking time away from your family every day to come to work,
Yeah.
that you can have that kind of environment and not dread waking up Monday morning and having to like, oh, I have to go to work again. For me, it's such a relief when I can wake up in the morning, Monday morning, and be like, all right, back at it, going to see the guys,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And then I get to come home and be with my family again at nighttime, which, you know, we're with these people usually more than we're with our own families. So if you can create that kind of culture and environment at work, I mean, it's a game changer. And that motivates me every day to try to help make other people's lives better. That's what I want to do in my career and in any field that I'm in. I want to be in a place where I can help people in some kind of way. And that's kind of, I'm a GM of a reclaimed lumber business. And, you know, how do I help people? Well, we have 17 people here, you know,
Yeah.
and I hopefully can help them each day make a living and help provide for their families and,
That's where it
you know,
is.
create their own legacy.
Yeah. That's where it is.
And that's part of mine. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great way to go out, man.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you some other questions, but I'm not going to because that was just so good. We don't want to mess it up. So, hey, well, as I always am saying here as you're listening, if you're not teaching, if you're not being honest or upfront about your mistakes, if you're the foreman or you're the journey person out there that's saying, hey, I need experienced help, and you're not taking the time to invest in your people, to train in them, you're not taking the time to teach that younger person than you how you learn to do it, then you're part of the problem. So stop being part of the problem and step up to the line. You step up to the line and let's raise the view of the skilled trades together. That's what we're here with Evan Urban with vintage wood and forged iron.
There
I
you
read it
go.
off of his shirt.
There you go.
You know, that's why we're here talking about that today. That is what they're doing, and that's what you need to be doing. If we're going to lift the view of the skilled trades, we can't do it alone. We need you to do it with us. So step up to the line. Thanks for listening.
Cheers.
All right.
Thanks, man.
I really appreciate it. You did great.
Absolutely.
It was a great
Thanks.
conversation.
Awesome.
So,
It was fun.
yeah, good deal. Yeah, I'm freezing my ass
Yeah,
off
my
right
fingers. Can't quite feel my fingers.
now. Yeah. Yeah.